Alright, what's going on guys? It's Epoxy and welcome to my first ever video on Borderlands 3. I figured since I've never covered Borderlands 3 here on the channel, I would get started with everything we know so far. There is a ton of information scattered across the internet about Borderlands 3, so here is all of it broken down into one simplified video with timestamps and no BS. So let's go ahead and start with what you all probably want to know the most. When will Borderlands 3 be released? An official release date does not currently exist, but there is a lot of information pointing toward it being released during the fiscal year of 2019. In other words, sometime between October 2018 to September 2019. This information comes from a March investors call where Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick said a highly anticipated new title from one of 2K's biggest franchises is in development for the fiscal year of 2019. This is a claim Zelnick repeated in August, and in February 2018, Take-Two issued a press release announcing that a highly anticipated new title from one of 2K's biggest franchises is coming out during fiscal year 2019. Out of the games Take-Two publishes, it seems most likely this is Borderlands 3, as Borderlands is one of their largest franchises and is openly discussed by Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox Software. So why won't it be any of 2K's other games? Well, we know the next BioShock game is in development according to a new report from Kotaku about the project. The BioShock project, codenamed Parkside, is, at least for the most parts, under wraps. As of right now, it's seeming very far off as the team is being kept small and is only in experimental phase. So BioShock is kind of out of the question. Mafia 4 isn't out of the realm of possibility as it sold very well for 2K, but Mafia 3 just released in October 2016, not even a full 2 years ago. So I personally wouldn't call it a highly anticipated new title as they refer to in the investors call and press release. Obviously, there are people that want Mafia 4 to be a thing right now, but it's just nowhere near the level of anticipation as Borderlands 3, which the anticipation has now been building up since the 2014 release of Borderlands the pre-sequel, and for the people that didn't like that game, then it's now been building up since the release of Borderlands 2, which came out in 2012. As for XCOM, although it's a successful franchise, I wouldn't really label it as one of 2K's biggest franchises. So with all that information pointing toward the release being for Borderlands 3, when do I believe it will be released based on further information? Well, if we take a look at the release of the last 3 big entries in the Borderlands series, we'll see somewhat of a pattern. Borderlands was released October 20th, 2009, Borderlands 2 released on September 18th, 2012, and Borderlands the pre-sequel released on October 14th, 2014. Not only did they all release within the span of 32 days from each other in terms of time during the year they released, but they have never taken this long to release a Borderlands game. Borderlands to Borderlands 2 was a 3-year gap, and Borderlands 2 to the pre-sequel was a 2-year gap. And even though that was developed by a different studio, it gives us a decent idea for when they want to release a new Borderlands game. We've already surpassed that time, so a Borderlands game is definitely due, and I don't think they would be talking about Borderlands 3 as often as they are now if it wasn't somewhat close, because they say they don't want to build up hype, but they would be doing exactly that if they keep on talking about the project if it's still years off. So unless they release in a different time of year than they usually would to avoid other big game releases, I would expect a release somewhere in September or October. And the year is a little more difficult to pin down because of the window of release. According to the investors call and press release, it's releasing during the fiscal year of 2019. That could either mean the beginning of that time window, October 2018, which is the first month of that fiscal year, or it could be the very last month of that window, September 2019. And I think the reasoning behind this time frame is to give them a year of breathing room if they can't finish everything off this year. I do feel like they're aiming for a 2018 release, but whether they will hit that, we'll have to wait and see. We do, however, know that they are well into Borderlands 3 development, as it was over a year ago that Randy Pitchford teased that they were working on motion capture for Borderlands 3. That is typically done somewhat later in game development, and the fact that it's been over a year since that post, it further points toward a release sooner than later. During a panel at PAX West 2017, Pitchford even said that 90% of the Gearbox team are, in quotes, working on the thing I think most of you guys want us to be working on. Pitchford is well aware of how much people love Borderlands and how that's their top series. You can see it in his face when someone brings it up in an interview or a podcast. It's like he was waiting for the moment for Borderlands to be brought up. The fact that Borderlands 3 has what is likely more than 90% of the team now working on it, that means it's far out of early phases and is in full-fledged production and has been for quite some time, especially due to the fact that they were doing motion capture in the same year of this comment. So we almost certainly know that Borderlands 3 is going to be released in either 2018 or 2019, but how long are we going to have to wait between the time that they reveal Borderlands 3 and they actually release Borderlands 3? Well, Randy Pitchford also went on a podcast last month where he answered some Borderlands 3 related questions. The biggest question being about the release of Borderlands 3. He obviously didn't discuss a release date or a release window, but he did discuss the reveal to release timeframe.
One thing we're learning about this industry as it develops, as it progresses, and not just this industry, but the world in general, and particularly when it comes to entertainment and media, the things move very fast now. So we don't. It's actually negative to kind of build the hype too early and to make a promise too early. Right now, we live in a world where once it's time to say, "Hey, here's a thing," you kind of want it then, right? Like if somebody tells me like, "Hey, here's this movie you're going to want to go see. It's freaking awesome." And you're like, "What? I got to wait a year?" You know, it's like, or like, "Hey, this band that you love is making a new CD or new album." CD, like I'm such a dinosaur. This band that you love is making a new album, like, but it's not going to come out for a year. No, it's like you tell me like the band's got an album and I could download it today. Like that's kind of where we're going in the world. So there's less and less lead time between when we actually make the big open public reveal for something we've worked on and when it actually launches. In the video game industry, there'll still be some lead time, but it's not going to be like, you know, a year or 2 years like it has been in the past.
So Borderlands 3 will be getting revealed and released within the same year. He also added that Borderlands 3 will be completely polished before it's revealed, so we will be seeing it for the first time at a nearly finished state.
There's another very important reason why we shouldn't do that is because things in development it's like art. It's in motion. It's constantly changing, and we're adapting to our own discoveries. And it's really important now more than ever that when we make a promise that we meet or exceed the expectations set by that promise. So we need to. I want to be at a point where we're basically done before we even tell people what we have.
So it's really nice to hear that everything we see at the reveal will be polished and will likely be in the final product when it's released. We won't be seeing a concept for a game where all the features and missions don't actually exist in the final game. He also went on to discuss the differences between Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3.
But here's the thing, like, I mean, you played Borderlands 2. You know how big of a game that was and how many people had to come together to make that happen. The things that we're doing moving forward are even more complex and even larger. Wow. So it's best for us to kind of get all our ducks in a row before we make promises.
So now we know that Borderlands 3 is going to be more complex and larger than its predecessor, Borderlands 2, in a number of ways. Another big question that you probably all have about Borderlands 3, because there are so many platforms out there nowadays: what platforms will Borderlands 3 be available on? We can expect that Borderlands 3 will be coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and unfortunately, it seems unlikely that it's coming to the Nintendo Switch, at least not on launch. Randy Pitchford responded to a fan asking about a Switch port, and he had this to say: "I do not see that as happening. We were talking to Nintendo, but that stopped for some reason. They have other priorities." Not only that, but he discussed his gripes with putting Borderlands 3 on the Switch, saying that FPS games don't quite work on a handheld device.
We've had interactions with Nintendo, and we do have some titles coming, mostly on our publishing side. But you know, it's tricky. The Switch is not the same. It doesn't have the same capabilities as the others, and so to do a game, I think a good Nintendo Switch game needs to really be cared for as a Nintendo Switch game. You're still playing a first-person shooter on a handheld, which isn't ideal.
It's difficult with those tiny little sticks.
When the controller is attached to the screen is going to move when you move the controller. And when you're doing Twitch movements, we need, like, Borderlands. A game like Borderlands kind of needs to be stuck on the screen, and then we can do whatever the hell we're going to do with our hands with the controller, and our eyes can still fix on the screen. But that said, I think there is a good Switch experience that could be in any of our franchises, frankly, but I think it needs to be a dedicated Switch experience.
Whether this is all to throw people off, I have no idea. I would just suggest you wait for a reveal before getting angry about what platforms it will and will not be releasing on. Where will Borderlands 3 take place? It's seeming more and more like Borderlands 3 will take us off the surface of Pandora and will allow us to explore a brand new planet or planets. During Epic's Unreal presentation at GDC 2017, Randy Pitchford claimed that Gearbox's switch to Unreal Engine 4 allowed for differing stimulations of physics depending on the planet's properties, possibly hinting that there will be multiple planets to explore in Borderlands 3. Why else would he mention that Unreal Engine 4 allows for different physics for other planets if there aren't multiple planets? That doesn't matter if you're not including multiple planets. One planet we'll likely be able to visit for the first time in Borderlands 3 is Promethea. We know this thanks to multiple Borderlands Easter eggs in Battleborn's DLC, which Gearbox confirmed at PAX East 2016 that DLC missions for Battleborn will have Easter eggs about the next Borderlands game. So this is indeed Borderlands 3 information, not just fun little Easter eggs. The main Easter egg is in Battleborn's Atticus and Thrall Rebellion DLC, where you can find graffiti on a wall behind a gate that reads Promethea with the vault symbol next to it. That wasn't the only Easter egg that hinted towards Promethea, as all 5 stories contained hidden messages and audio signals which were decoded as the following. Visit Promethea, children of the vault. We are not on Pandora anymore. Tannis is not what she seems. Do not open the vaults. A lot of interesting teases within those decoded signals, so feel free to leave your speculation in the comments. And just for some quick information on Promethea, it's the planet in which the Atlas Corporation found alien technology and used it to manufacture improved starships and weaponry with its benefits. The Crimson Lance also have a military presence on the planet. So that gives us kind of an idea of what we can expect on Promethea. The development of Borderlands 3 hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows though. Borderlands 3 has suffered a few setbacks. Unfortunately, Mikey Newman, the writer behind Borderlands 1 and 2, was forced to resign due to health complications while working on the new Borderlands project. Lead writer on Borderlands 2, Anthony Birch, has also left the company, so there has been no word on who has taken over their roles. Another departure from someone well known is David Eddings, the voice behind Claptrap, who left Gearbox for Rooster Teeth in June 2017. So what about graphics and technology advancements? As mentioned earlier, Borderlands 3 will be using Unreal Engine 4, and that is quite the technological leap from the Unreal Engine 3 that Borderlands 2 used. But Borderlands isn't known for its realistic graphics, it's known for its cel-shaded cartoon-like art style, so they won't be taking full advantage of the Unreal Engine 4. That doesn't mean it's not going to see a huge leap for them in terms of possibilities. As I mentioned, during Epic's Unreal presentation at GDC 2017, Randy Pitchford claimed that Gearbox's switch to Unreal Engine 4 allows for differing stimulations of physics depending on the planet's properties, but it also allows for more than that. During the Borderlands 3 tech demo, it showed off real-time shadows, which could mean a dynamic time of day system. Randy Pitchford went as far as saying,
and it also allows the scene to simulate in real time as time of day changes, or as maybe conceivably we have different physics if we, for example, were to explore different planets. There might be different physics in the sun, and the moons might be in different positions than we're used to on Pandora.
Again, bringing up the multiple planets idea from earlier in the video. Generally, the Unreal Engine will allow for much better graphics for Borderlands 3 when it comes to everything outside of meshes and textures, as those are the two details Borderlands goes out of their way to make look less real. That means everything to do with lighting, physics, and the way things can interact in the game world. What characters will make an appearance? Well, based off of the decoded audio signals from the Easter egg, it mentioned that Tannis is not what she seems. That pretty much confirms she will have some sort of presence in the game, which isn't much of a surprise, and other than that, we don't have any confirmation of returning characters, but we may know of a new character, as while Mikey Newman was still working on Borderlands 3, he brainstormed a possible new character. This will be Scooter's son, Scooper. We have no idea if Scooper will make it in the final game, but it is something to mention, and people are also speculating that Tiny Tina is the character shown in the Unreal presentation, just not so tiny anymore. Whether that is true, we'll have to wait and see. It could very well make sense, as a good amount of time will have passed between Borderlands 2 and 3, seeing as we're going to end up on new planets. Just a bit of cool speculation from the community I thought I would toss out there, as Randy Pitchford did say that they had positioned the pauldron so we can't see who it is, so it's likely someone we've already met. As of right now, that's everything we know about Borderlands 3. If I somehow missed something during my hours of research, watching podcasts and events, please let me know in the comments below. If it's important information, I'll be sure to start a pinned comment listing more information with credits. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please smack that like button down below and subscribe to join the good fights if you haven't already. It would be super greatly appreciated as always. And until next time, this is Apaxi signing off.